Teller got another free play coming your guys' way. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. We are coming off our first ever loss since we started this segment, but let's be very clear, that now pushes the record to 5-1, and that lone loss we're talking about was a measly 1-unit stab on a plus 230 underdog as we looked to fade my arch nemesis Kevin Holland this past weekend. It didn't pay off. Santiago Ponzinibbio did show to have had age catch up with him. We saw the chin starting to be diminished. That was a big narrative that we talked about going into that fight, as he had showcased a solid chin throughout his career. But 36 years old, he's been through some wars. And listen, Kevin Holland, love him or hate him, the dude carries power, and he is a true stud. He's a solid fighter, and but that will not stop me from fading Holland in the near future. You guys know it doesn't really matter if I look to fade Kevin Holland 3 times in a row and I lose, as long as I just sneak in that last one, get a victory there. We run off into the sunset just like Israel Adesanya did, and then we say we close the chapter there. But on a more serious note, I do stand behind that play. I thought there was some decent value there. Ponzinibbio was looking fairly well in that fight before getting caught. We knew it was going to come down to that, though. He had to avoid that big shot. And I'll tell you guys what, after taking that small L, I'm hungrier than ever to bounce back in the W column here. Let's push the record to 6-1. Let's bring in some more profits. After we hit the play just in this video, we will more than have doubled, almost tripled that one little lone loss, that 1-unit loss again. So it's nothing. It's not phasing us at all. And please, you guys, like this video, subscribe to the channel. I told you guys, the more you like these videos, the more I will consistently give these free plays out to you guys. All right, it's much appreciated. Catch me on all my social media as well, on Instagram at MMAFortuneteller_, on Twitter at the MMATeller. All right, guys, we're going to be talking some women's mixed martial arts strawweight action here. 2 talented Brazilian fighters squaring off. We got one fighter in Bruna Brasil, who had said to have had the most amazing knockout ever in women's mixed martial arts on Dana White's Contender Series. And that statement was said by Dana White, so it does carry some merit. And she's taking on a tough customer in Denise Gomes as Brazil gets welcomed to the UFC here. I'm excited to talk about this fight. I think I see some value. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA Fortune Teller. Yeah.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller.
So as we said, on this past season of Dana White's Contender Series, we witnessed one of the most spectacular knockout finishes that we've ever seen in really all of women's mixed martial arts, if you ask me, let alone just on Dana White's Contender Series. It's not every day you're seeing that type of knockout in WMMA. Instantly, as Bruna Brasil gets the contract to fight in the UFC, I think that she is going to be one of the top strikers in her respective division, in the strawweight division. The major question mark in regards to her is going to be how her takedown defense holds up, how her overall ground game is going to hold up against some of the tough grapplers in the division. It wasn't like she just landed this one big head kick KO shot. I mean, we were easily able to tell that she is a very polished striker, almost reminiscent to a little small female version of an Alex Pereira. There's a lot of similarities there. Lightning fast striking coming from her, nice leg kicks. She mixes it all together very well. Good boxing. And like I said, though, it's going to come down to the fact if she's able to use her distance management well and her takedown defense well in the octagon. Otherwise, I could see her having some major problems throughout her UFC career. Now, on the other hand, we got Denise Gomes, who really showed to be a tough customer on Dana White's Contender Series, really pushing the pace upon her opponent, taking that W there, getting an opportunity to have already fought in the UFC as well. She had already made her UFC debut here. She's 23 years old, so there's a lot of room for growth in her game as well. She's currently a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt, and I think that her path to success in this fight is going to be to really try to close the distance on Bruna and solidify a couple takedowns and use her ground game here. So as we take a look at both fighters' resumes, we notice that both fighters have tasted defeat twice. One common theme between both of their two losses is that the opponents are respectable. Bruna Brasil taking a loss early on against Ariane Cornelosi. And then if you take a look at the other fighter who defeated her, she has a decent resume put together there as well. So I'm not overly concerned with either of those losses. Now we talk about Denise Gomes' losses. First and foremost, her early fight on in her career, I believe it was her first fight against a fighter that also has put together a respectable career. And then we're talking about the loss that she had to Loma Legbumi. I want to talk about that fight here in a second, but I will give a slight edge to the resume of Bruna Brasil based on the fact that she has a couple more fights. She also has one professional boxing match under her belt as well. And even though she hasn't had her opportunity to fight in her first UFC fight, she has fought over an LFA, and you guys know that Dana White's Contender Series is quite the stage as well. So let's talk about Denise Gomes' UFC debut, where she took that loss to Loma. I think that fight is very important when you analyze this matchup as well, because there's a lot of similarities. We know that Loma is a high caliber striker, as is Bruna Brasil. A little bit of different styles, but again, both high caliber strikers there. And there's some question marks about both of their grappling and their takedown defense. Now, in the fight between Loma and Gomes, Gomes was implementing similar tactics of what I expect her to be doing in this fight. She was pressuring, trying to solidify those takedowns, and in my opinion, she really struggled. In fact, when you check the numbers, she never officially secured one takedown in that fight. She had a slight amount of control time, and those were due to some wild scrambles where things were really messy. But Loma made her pay on a few entries, using a judo throw to land on top of herself. And actually, we've really never seen Loma land so many damaging shots down in the mat as she did in that fight, dropping elbows, really using some ground and pound that we saw evolving in her game. And you know, is it really that Loma is just developing so well there, or are there some question marks into Gomes' takedown attempts and how sloppy she gets, and her ground game off her back as well, if you want to be honest? Speaking of judo throws, as we refer to that Loma judo throw that she had against Gomes, Bruna actually had a beautiful judo throw against Marnik Mann in her fight on DWCS. We already talked about the fact that Marnik Mann was just continuously trying to push that pressure amongst Bruna against the cage, trying to solidify those takedowns. I really like the way that Bruna defended the takedowns against the cage for the most part throughout that fight. Bruna showcasing a 62% takedown defensive rate within that fight. Not the greatest number. Obviously, that means that she was taken down, but most of those takedowns came early on in the fight. And I like the fact that as that fight progressed, Bruna was stuffing those takedowns and really wearing out the gas tank of Marnik as she pressed there, eventually setting up that KO head kick that Bruna Brasil hit her with. So how do these two women match up physically? No, I'm not talking about if this was a beauty contest. I think that we know who would win there. Bruna Brasil, quite the looker. Denise Gomes, if you're into that type of thing, I got some good news for you, because Ricky Simone will be fighting on next week's card. Maybe just get a hold of him, or throw that mullet back in a ponytail. But how do they actually match up physically? Bruna Brasil is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage to go along with her much more technical and talented striking. I really believe she'll have an edge on the feet. She's also 4 inches taller, which I think will pay dividends as she uses the kicks from the outside. But let's not also forget, she has to be careful just throwing those kicks up there, because there will be possible takedown entries for Gomes if she's just throwing those kicks up there sloppily. I really don't think that will be the case based off the fact that Bruna really has some crisp technique. She's lightning quick with her strikes, and usually as soon as she's popping those off, she's right back into place, and hopefully there she'll be able to stuff those takedowns and control this fight on the feet. So how do we actually see this fight taking place? I'll tell you what, I think that there is a realistic possibility that Denise Gomes can somehow get this fight down to the mat, where she could eventually stifle a round or two and take a decision here, or the possibility that maybe we see her jiu-jitsu ever evolving, and maybe we see that Bruna Brasil is lacking down there, and maybe she just really wasn't tested that much with her grappling in the first 11 fights that she's been in, and we see Gomes go out there, maybe take the backup Bruna and pull off a rear naked choke or something like that. But I'll tell you this, I think there's a much more realistic possibility that we see the same narrative play out, which was in Bruna's fight on Dana White's Contender Series and Denise Gomes' UFC debut. And that is Bruna Brasil stuffs the takedowns, uses the fence to her advantage as she scores points, throwing elbows there, potentially even uses some judo throws to reverse Denise and get on top of her. And we saw that Denise Gomes is defense down in the mat is really below average. She eats a lot of shots. We saw Loma teeing off on her with elbows and all types of things. I think that there's a great chance we see something like that as well. But most importantly, she eventually gets back up and she uses her striking to really tee off on Denise Gomes, showcasing that she is the much more talented striker in this fight. That's how I see this fight playing out. So where are we going with our action here? I'll tell you what, Bruna Brasil opened up as quite the hefty favorite as we saw her towards the mid minus 200s. I actually was comfortable with her right around a flat minus 200 initially, and all throughout this fight week we have continuously saw this line dropping. So people feeling confident that Gomes might be able to use that grappling that we talked about. I'll tell you what, you guys know I'm on the other side of the fence there. So I'm even more comfortable with the available lines right now. You can grab Bruna Brasil right now as low as a minus 155 to a minus 160 favorite, which is an absolute steal in my opinion. I felt comfortable grabbing her there again at minus 165 through 4 units at her. This fight will come down to if she can keep this fight standing, or again, just successfully stay off the mat too much, at least on her back. And I think that she could do that. I'm recommending that you guys throw some units towards Bruna Brasil here, and we just continue the hot streak that we've been on. Again, we're 5-1 since we started this segment. We're going to push it to 6-1, and we'll be laughing about that 1 unit loss that we just took against Kevin Holland there when we're running to the bank, cashing on Bruna Brasil here. So comment below and let me know if you're riding with me, or are you guys fading me here? Are you guys disgusted in the 1 unit loss that we just took to Holland? And do you guys feel that Gomes really has potential to stifle Bruna with those takedowns and you think the teller's off? Let me know. Comment below. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know who's rolling with me here on this 4 unit play. This way, after the fight takes place, we could hit up the comment section and see what time it is with everybody here. All right, hit that comment section up below. Please like this video. Like I told you guys, it really helps me out, and I can continuously give you guys these free plays. And go catch me on all my social media. And if you guys are looking for my entire slate for UFC Fight Night Kansas City, be sure to reach out to me through email, Instagram, or Twitter. My email also MMAFortuneteller@gmail.com. I got everything scrolling below. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Enjoy the fights. All right, have a great rest of your week, and enjoy the fights on Saturday, guys. All right, signing out, Teller.
Welcome to the show, this the MMA Fortune Teller. Yeah.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller.